How's it going, ScrubGamers? Welcome back to another video here at Scrub Games, and today we're going to have a deck profile for the green cooler deck that I took to the webcam local, or not took, but was given to me and voted by my Discord to take to last Friday's webcam locals. And I had a lot of fun playing. I've been wanting to play this since it was revealed, and I've just been slowly picking up the pieces for it, figuring out how to build it and play it best. And yeah, I managed to put it together, put it as one of the options to vote for, because I do that with every time with locals, because I like to play a different deck every week. So I put up to a vote for my viewers to pick, so they've got like a bit of insight, a bit of choice into what I play to help do it, and then I get to play something different each time and enjoy it. So this was one of the options. I think the other two options were Hatchak and Sin Shenron, and this one was the one voted with the most votes to try out. So I put it together, had fun with it, and I just found it incredibly enjoyable, because I've found a lot of green decks, well, mostly green decks have been quite enjoyable this format, and it's nice because you don't often go against evergreen decks or mirror matches for green, which is nice. One thing I don't like too much in Dragon Ball is mirror matches, because it becomes quite a bit boring. There's only a few mirror matches where it's actually quite fun to play, and yeah, this wouldn't be one of them. But the deck is essentially based around unisons, as we saw, so it's like the same as the yellow Goku in the same set, and it's built around like utilizing unisons and getting a lot of advantage out of it. And it gets around a few things as well, because there's not too much in terms of unison interaction. So this deck is not the easiest to stop, probably. But before we get into the list, feel free to subscribe if you aren't already. It keeps you updated with my videos as when they drop, and also as well gives you a chance to go enter my giveaway that I hit when I hit 400 subscribers a few days ago. So you can go check that out. It's still the entry is still open until the end of August, because the prize is to get a premium pack of the first Zenkai set. And as well as that, like the video if you do enjoy it, and comment down below to say anything you want to see. If you want me to cover any decks you want to see or anything like that, I do my best to try and get anything people want to request out. And as well as that, by subscribing, go back to that, you help me get to my goal of 1,000 subs, which once I get there, I'll have something interesting I'll be doing for 1,000 subs, and I'll detail that when I get to 500. So we're slowly on the way to 500 now, after reaching 400. So without further ado, I also do want to shout out to Deck Planet for being the best deck builder, like being able to showcase decks with like a lot easier, and also easier to print them out and import them to Untap to test out as well, and also to Duke's Gaming for sponsoring the webcam locals by giving us some packs. So we've got some stuff for first place for the next few weeks. So shouts to them. Links to their sites and shops are down in the description below. So without further ado, let's get into the deck list. So this is Green Cooler. So Cooler has had a lead, an archetype in quite a few colours now. It started off in yellow, it's been in red, and now it's in green. And the yellow stuff was all about resting and playing like about more like the meta cooler, doing like the whole. Well, it had both sides, meta cooler and normal cooler, before around like resting and spamming and stuff out. Then the red was all focused on doing the milling, and green is all about the aggro through unisons with, like, as most people see, green. One of green's things is it's a bit of hand control is one of the mechanics for green. It's like a lot of hand control stuff in green, and most people when they see green they think hand control, like deciding to like get ready with things like the border side in and focus on that. But green is not just hand control. I know there's been a lot of strong decks, probably some of the strongest decks in green have been hand control ones, but green is not just hand control, it's aggression and destruction as well. And Cooler embodies that, but also putting together with a bit of hand destruction where if you use it properly, you can really decimate your opponents. Because one of the best things about having the combination of aggro and hand destruction, we saw Red Broly, is that it makes it so your opponent has far fewer options to actually counter you and stop you. And that's one thing I like about this. And unlike Red Broly, the green hand destruction is permanent, so they're not going to be getting it back at the end of the turn. It's going to be gone, and it does it in little bits, so you've got to make sure you manage it, because if your opponent does side into bars, you need to watch out for that. So with the leader, pretty simple with the leader. It's got built-in self-awakening, which is one really nice thing to have on any leader, really, because you don't want to be stuck, not being able to flip over. Like, you either want an alternative awakening condition that's quite easy to pull off, or some kind of self-awakening either built-in or easy to use and search within the deck itself. And Cooler has it built in while also getting you still draw power. So on the front side, it's got an auto where you add one card from your life to your hand. When this card attacks, you get to draw one. You draw one card, or you may draw one card. But if you don't, because it is may, you play up to one green unison card with a specified cost of 1 from your hand with a marker on it. So you either get when you attack, you get to take a card from your life to help yourself awaken. That's fantastic. And as well, you get the option of either drawing or free playing a 1 specified cost green unison. Now, so you can either choose to draw to get more cards, or play something so you can either get the effects off of it or get extra attacks in. So that's really nice to have that option. And an extra one it's got on both sides as well, is also once per turn, when one of your green unison cards is placed in your drop area, you get to draw one card. Now do note that the ruling within Dragon Ball is that cards are only referred to, or only really unison cards when in the unison area, so you can't discard one from your hand for a cost or anything like that to get the draw. It's if one in your unison area gets removed from the unison area and sent to the drop, then you draw one. So it's nice. It means that if you replace one with another one, like you want to do in this, then you get the draw. So if you've already got a unison on board, you attack with it and attack with leader to play a new one, you'll get a draw anyway using that, plus also get a new unison that can then attack, which is really nice. And its awakening is just when your life's before, you draw one, untap one, and then flip over. So nice mid-range awakening. Getting a 1 energy, 1 draw is really nice. And now you've got a similar auto on the front side, but now you don't take a life. It's just when this card attacks, you may draw 1. And if you don't, play up to 1 green unison card with a specified cost 1 from your hand with a marker on it. So similar to the front side, just you don't take the life now because you're already flipped over. And as I said, it's got the same second auto, and now it's got an activate battle, which is like reminiscent of Dark Broly's kind of activate battle, where you can discard 1 green unison card, and note it's not once per turn either. You just discard 1 green unison card from your hand as a cost, and then you choose either this card or one of your green unison cards, and it gets 5k power for the battle. So this is really good. So it's more like, it's only really useful defensively for your leader, not for unison, because your unisons don't get a defensive step. But being aggressive means that you can means that while you're playing a lot of unisons, they're not dead in your hand like it would be for some, like it is kind of for Dripku, or not Dripku, Yellow Goku. Don't like Yellow Dripku, the name is not a good name. And it allows you to be really aggressive if you need be by making your leader a unison even beefier, and since you're dropping a lot of unisons and that's the main focus of the deck, it's not too bad. And then defensively, you can make sure that those unisons in your hand aren't dead to help defend your leader. It's just a really strong leader, very strong, very generic, so you can play it without the archetype, but it is very good with its archetype. So we'll start off with the unisons because that's the base core of the deck, and we'll start with the main one that people even called for like to be banned because they think it's too strong, and that is Demigra Unison Sorcery. So we play 4/4 copies of this, and we play 4/4 copies of this and want a mulligan for it hard in our hand because of its permanent makes it so it's the first unison you want to play to keep the marks flowing on your unisons, because most of your unisons, or all of your unisons apart from this one, have the keyword empower with a certain number. So what empower does is basically, depending on the number, so if you want empower 2, it means when you replace a unison with a new unison, if that unison you're playing has empower, it keeps over a certain amount of markers from the previous unison if it's the same color as the what empower states and that many markers in it. So empower green 2 would mean that if you replace a green unison with this card, then you get to keep over 2 markers from that previous unison. So if you pay 1 to play it, you'll again get, and they had 2 before, your unison will come in with 3 markers, which is really nice, which means you can keep the markers up high to make use of your unison package and make the unisons like less likely to just perish. And Demagogue is a really nice one to start off with because of it's got that permanent, where if this card would lose a marker from the opponent's attack, you can add a card from your life to your hand instead, so further add into your self-awaken to awaken as quickly as possible, and also as well as that, it's making sure you're not losing markers, so when you play your next unison, it can keep over at least 2 markers strong, in a good way. And as well as that, it also has a strong +1, where if this card gains 10k power for the turn, make it a 15k attacker, which is nice. It means it can pressure unawakened and awakened leaders. And it's got a useful activate main for its -3, which is a little bit barrier move, which every deck should have. And this is choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, KO it, and then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with entry cost of 3 or less, ignore and barrier, and KO it. So you get to hit 2 things, and at least 1 thing ignoring barrier, and 3 or less is still relevant because there's some things that with barrier that are like really annoying to deal with that have 3 or less, which you want to deal with. Like best one I keep referring to is the yellow slug. That's a horrible card against for any deck to face. So you play 4 copies of this, and what we also play 4 copies of is Salsa Cooler's Armoured Squadron. Now the reason for this is because it's similar to Charismatic. It is a strong counterplay, and beyond, like we all know, Charismatic Villain is a very strong counterplay, but being able to have two versions of that you can drop in 1 turn is very, very strong. And some people I played against felt that when I dropped Salsa and then Charismatic. And if you don't know why, because this one has, so this is one of the first ones that has Empower, and it is a power green 3. So if you replace a unison, like one of the green unisons in here, and it has 2 or more markers, it has 2 markers on at least, you get to carry over 2 markers when you play this by replacing one. It is also a counterplay skill, which is just play this card with a marker on it. So you still got to pay. So you got to pay the specified cost of it, which is 1, and Empower mean it comes in with a. If you replace it, it comes with up to 2 extra markers with it by power casting it, playing off a lead or playing off by a counterplay skill. And its skill that makes it like Charismatic is this auto, where if your leader card is a green Frieza clan card, and this card has 3 or more markers on it, when this card is played, you choose it to one of your opponent's battle cards with entry cost of 7 or less, and you KO it. So that means, just similar to Charismatic, you just got it, but this is in the auto similar to Charismatic as well. So you get an extra bit of popping, and then it's got a +1, which is activate main. It gets 5k power for the turn, making it a 15k attacker, which is nice to pressure unawakened and awakened unisons. So we play 4 copies of that, because why would you not play like 8 copies of Charismatic? That go with the theme as well. And then the next unison we've got is 4 copies of Door. Like this is what I planned to play. I planned to play 4 copies of Door, but I didn't. I only had 1 copy, and I was only able to borrow 1 copy before the event. So I ended up playing 2 copies of Door and 2 copies of the Nezi, which is the counterattack one. So what Door does is just like Salsa. He's got Empower Green 2. But his auto is, and he's not a counterplay skill or a counterattack skill. He's just got an auto where if this card has 3 or more markers on it when it's played, add up to 1 cooler with an entry cost of 1 from your deck, then shuffle your deck. And now we'll see cooler in a bit, but he's one of our unison searches and a nice bit of a pressure as well if need be. And being able to search that means this is like one of the few unisons that pluses you 1, like actual 1 cards, not by taking away from your opponent, which is, I feel, valuable. And as I said, I replaced 2 copies of it with Nezi because I only had 2 copies. And what Nezi is, because I don't have it on the list, because the list that I would have played if I had all the cards. But Nezi is basically same kind of thing. Oh yeah, and Door also has a +1, which is at 10k power to make it up to 15. And Nezi's he's got Empower Green 2. It's also got Counter Attack, where you need to get the attack and play this card with a marker on it. And his auto skill is when this card is played with 3 or more markers on it. When this card is played, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, and it can't attack until the end of your opponent's next turn. So that's like could give an extra bit of stopping power for aggression, but I don't feel it was useful. But since I only had 2 Door, I thought I'd place that as at least something that could potentially be useful. And Nezi, one of the reasons why I don't like it over Door really is because its activate main is a +2, which so it gets extra markers on, but it just makes it so it's a 10k lead because it's already a 4k, and the activate main gives it a +6 power for the turn. So it means South Southern Door can get up to 15k, so at least that way if your opponent's awakened they can pressure it still, but Nezi only goes up to 10k, meaning you have to invest a bit more to be able to pressure on awakened leaders, which I do not like. So that's what I play. That's the replacement I had, because I only had 2 doors for Friday. And then next unison, which is never a very strong one, is Frieza, the Galactic Dynasty. Now this is also a 1 specified cost, but it's got Empower 3, so Empower Green 3. And it does have a permanent, which while this card has 3 or fewer markers on it, it can attack. But normally when you're playing it, you're going to be replacing a marker with at least 2 markers on it at very least. It comes in with 3 and then +1, so it can attack. So it's not really a hindrance there too much. And it's also got auto, but this auto is limit 1, meaning you can only activate it once in a turn across all copies of the card. And that is if this card has 3 or more markers on it. When this card is played, your opponent discards 1 card from the hand. Now one thing that is best to do with green with this lead is when you are using this skill, you preferably want your opponent to be tapped out, because most of the time people, when they see green, they think hand destruction straight away and they side in Deborah's. And what you don't want to do is use this when you open to make them discard Deborah and play it again with its and then gain basically a card on board and gain potentially a +2 by drawing 2 cards and playing a Deborah when you discarded 1 card from the hand. So making your opponent plus is not a good thing, so you want to make sure they're tapped out before dropping this Frieza, or hope they don't have Deborah. And then his +1 is just activate main. This card gains 10k power for the turn, making it a 20k attacker, which is pretty juicy. And then the last unison, which is also a big finisher we've got in the deck, which is very, very strong, and that is Golden Frieza Newfound Might. So this is a lot dearer than the other ones. This is one that can't be played off the leader because it's a 3 specified cost unison. It's Golden Frieza Newfound Might with 20k power. This one has Empower 4, so it can take out the 4 markers if it replaces another unison, which can help fully put up enough markers for its marker skill. And it's also got dual attack and blocker, so not only can it attack twice, it can also block if you want to leave it up to block. It also has a counter attack skill, which you play this card for 3 markers on it, so you'll be paying 3 to play 3. And that could be relevant because of this auto, where if this card has 4 markers on it, when this card is played, you choose all your opponent's battle cards and KO them. Now it doesn't go to barrier, but at least if your opponent goes wide and doesn't have protection with barrier on the battle cards, they're getting destroyed, getting wiped. And then its marker skill is -4, activate main. This card gains 10k power and triple strike for the turn, then switches card to active mode for the end of the turn. So if you're -4, you get to have a 30k dual attacking triple striker, and that restands if you don't kill him to have it as a blocker for your next turn. And given that green decks have dormant, it means you're going to be very well protected in surviving the next turn if you have that with it. But that is it for the unisons for this. So because we're running a green unison package, like all green decks, we're going to be running our little unison package, the stuff to go with the unisons, which is 4 charismatic villain and 4 dormant potential unleashed. So charismatic is just a counterplay, which can be paid for free if you've got a unison with at least 2 or more markers on it, and it's got a similar auto to Nezi, where when it's played, choose to win your opponent's battle cards with entry cost of 7 or less and pop it. So we're playing a full 4 copies because at the very least, if you can't play them, combo power. And then we've got dormant, where if your leader is mono green, which it is, you can choose any number of your opponent's battle cards, add up to a total number of 2 or less, which gets rid of tokens for free and then up to 2 cost, and KO them. And then additionally, you can choose any 1 green card in your hand, discard it, and if you do, your opponent can only attack 1 more time after this attack for the turn. And of course, if you've got a unison in play, you can play this for free without paying its energy cost. So perfect thing, and we play for 4 copies because we want to try and if we go against aggro and sooner, you want this to be useful to help, or even just make it so it's a very strong card in if your opponent is trying to aggress you after you try to kill them, you can at least make it so you have to worry less about trying to survive, because it makes it so you've only got 2 attacks for the turn. And if they can't kill you and there's 2 attacks, then you just have another turn to try and pressure and kill again. So for the rest of the battle cards, we'll get into that now because we've got over the unison packages. We've got the best super combo for green, which is Paragus. I say best one for this is because it's one of those where you get to see 2 cards instead of 1, like you do like the old super combos we used to get back at the beginning of the game. But the edge it has over Great Saiyaman is the fact that you get to see the 2 cards first and then decide which one to warp. which is a lot better because sometimes you'll put back, like with Gohan, you put back a card you didn't want and draw 2 cards that you didn't want either. Or at least with Defending Paragus, you get to use it, draw the 2 cards, and then decide what you want to get rid of from them, which is a lot better than putting one back and then drawing 2. And then the Cooler that we can search off door is Cooler and Mighty Sibling in Space. So he's a very good searcher for unisons because he's got an auto where when this card is played, you look up to 5 cards from the top of your deck, add up to 1 green unison card with a specified cost of 3 or less among them to your hand and shuffle your deck. So he can search for any of the unisons here, which is very nice. And he's got another benefit of being on the board if one of your unisons is replaced with his ever auto, which is once per turn. When one of your green unison cards is placed in your drop area, add up to 1 card from your hand to your life. So that's optional, you don't have to have the card to your hand from your life if you don't want to. And then this card becomes a 15k for the turn. So that's very nice to be 15k is nice to just, as I said, to pressure your opponent's leader even if they're awakened. And having this as a searcher and being searchable off of the door gives a bit of consistency and nice stuff about that. And then next we have a counterplay, which is kind of the help stop floodgates, which I will be replacing, and that is 3 copies of the Dora Bringer with Power. So this is a 1-drop counterplay where if your leader card is mono green and you have a green unison card in play, if the battle card being played has energy cost of 2 or less, it's played in the zoner's drop area instead of being played, then play this card. Now in theory this one's very good because the fact that most of the strongest and widely used counter like floodgate negates and stuff are mainly 2 cost or less, or become 2 cost or less for their cost. So this is really good, and you're normally always going to have a unison in play because you're focused on that, like dropping it from lead and things like that, keeping one in play. But the only issue is there potentially could be more floodgates that are 3 cost or more that could that this doesn't hit. And also, as I found out, like if you do somehow lose your unison or you take someone's unison, like we'll see in a bit that you can do, then this card is useless because you need that green unison on board. So I will probably be switching this out for Focus Breakthrough, where even though Focus Breakthrough can be comboed off, because that's one of the benefit to Dora is it's a counter play that can also be comboed off for combo power if need be. Breakthrough can't, but Breakthrough at least hits 3 or less and doesn't require you to have a unison board to use it, so that's going to be probably what I'm going to switch them out for. Then we've got some other stuff that you require unison for, which works really well in this deck. It's 2 copies of Son Goku's Spirit Bomb Unleashed. So it's nice because it can come out for 1 and has a bit of unison hate as well, which is one thing I do like about playing green, is you get some unison hate which most colors don't have. And there's an activate main for limit 1 for 1 green if you have 3 or more energy and a green unison card in play. You can play this card from your hand, and if you do, choose up to 1 of your opponent's unison cards and remove a marker from it. So being able to put things like the Boo unison down to 1 and then just finish it off by playing this is fantastic. And if you're all done with like swinging with unison and want to just make use of it, use some markers on them, you can then use his activate main, which is once per turn, by Spirit Boost X. X being you can pay as many markers as you want, or as you can, or you can or want to, up to the number that you have. And it requires you to have a green, be used on a green unison. This card, and then the effect is this card gains 5k power for the turn for each marker you remove from your unison card with this skill, and if you remove 2 or more markers, it gains double strength for the turn. So simply be able to play this for 1 on after 3 energy, you get to remove a marker from your opponent's unison, potentially killing it, and then you can use the second activate main, Spirit Boost X. If you remove 2 markers, it becomes a 25k and then gains double strength because it removes 2 or more markers. So that's a very good way to finish off, especially for 1 energy as well. And another potential 1 energy play is Cooler Sibling Cruelty. So this is one that helps you recycle your unisons as well, which is a nice thing. Like, it's not too beneficial, but it is nice to have. And it's a 20k double striker. It's permanent, is how it gets reduced potentially down to 1. It's because for each green unison in your drop area, you can reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1. And since it's got 1 green specified cost, it can only go down to maximum 1. And it's got a nice auto, which is how you recycle unisons by when this card is played, you can't play copies of this card for the turn. That's why we only run 2, because you can't play multiple on the same turn. And you place 1 green unison card with a specified cost of 3 or less from your drop area at the bottom of your deck. And if you do that, your opponent discards 1 card from their hand. So never a small amount of like hand destruction, that to just make it so while you're pressuring your opponent's losing cards in hand to help stop have trouble and have less cards to help deal with your aggression, which is very nice to add. And double strike, meaning you can pressure a little bit more and even remove more markers off unisons quite easily. And then we have a bit of extra barrier removal in the form of, I like to play one copy of Sun Gohan Midden Might, because it's very good barrier removal, and where you can take your life down to 3 if you want to, that you can control how much life you take thanks to the cooler, the 1-drop cooler, the leader itself. Then I play one copy of Sun Gohan Might, because it's Deflect, Unique, and Double Strike. It's 25k. And it's got a permanent where if your life is at 3 or less, you can reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 3, making it a 2 cost. And it's got a nice auto where if your leader card is green, when this card is played, you get to choose 1 or 2 effects. You either choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier and KO it, or you choose up to one of your opponent's battle unison cards and remove a marker from it. So you can either finish off a unison that's got 1 marker that could potentially block or ruin your day, like Boo Unison, or if you've got something that's with barrier in rest, like in your opponent's board, you can just pop it by playing this card and swing for 25 double strike, which is very great. And in a secret rare choice I went for the deck was Majin Buu Kibito Guy Absorb. Now green has quite a few good secret rares to choose, but I like to use mainly this one because it's a really strong floodgate because of its activate main/battle, which is for 2 green. Play this card from your hand and your opponent can't attack with battle cards for the turn. So like a mini, like pan in the sense, like a pan for green, but not play for 3, 2 minimum. And it also is a 40k double striker that you can finish the game with, which I did in one of the games if you want to watch back on last Friday's webcam stream upload. And it can also steal one of your opponent's unisons with its auto, which is Spirit Boost 2, which is also as long as you remove 2 markers from one of your unisons. When this card is played from your hand, you get to choose one of your opponent's unisons and gain control of it. Now this is a very nice effect, and one of the reasons why I'm going to be changing the Doria to Focus Breakthrough, because sometimes you can take your opponent's unison and it might not be the same colour but very strong that you want to keep hold of. So it's nice to just take all that and not lose out on your counterplay for Floodgates. And in our overrealm of choice, I went for 3 copies of Dark Temptation Tower, just because it's a very low overrealm, being overrealm 3. And as well as that, being a knight 15k means you can still pressure just an extra swing, and it's a nice way to reduce the amount of cards your opponent has to deal with your aggression by making them discard 1. And also when you overwhelm it, you give your leader, if your leader is green or yellow, you give it 5k power and you make your opponent discard 1. So making my leader a 20k attacker or 15k attacker, depending on which side it's on for the turn. And also making your opponent discard 1 and have less options is very nice. And I put 3 because you can just do it over multiple turns where you're constantly comboing or replacing units and stuff like that. And it never felt bad to have too many, because you normally wouldn't break with having too many black cards with that. And then the last card is our last extra card, being 3 copies of High Side Clones. So every deck is mainly running the token negates just because they're so good. The fact that negate potentially 2 attacks, but negating the first one and playing a token with blocker that can for the turn. So being able to negate attack, then play something that can block a never attack is really good. And especially when you're since sometimes your opponent will try to put you down from 5 to 3 by swinging a double strike while you're at 5. Being able to stop that attack, put you down to 4 so you can awaken at the life total you want to, and then be able to block more attacks is good. And the added benefit to this one, like there is for the red one, is that if you don't use it as a blocker for the turn and you have it for the next turn, the token is at least a combo piece, because for the red and green one they have 5k combo for the turn, so that's an extra added benefit to that. And that is the full list. So that's the list I played. Well, tried to play, as I said, I did have only 2 doors, so I switched 2 of them out for 2 copies of Nezu. But I had a lot of fun doing it. I just didn't play very well against the blue deck, but you can see that on the stream. And I do have a side deck as well that I kind of did modify a bit. I'll just see if I can remember what my side deck was, because this is an old side deck from before when it first got revealed, but since then it's changed. So my side deck was, instead of the Urgent Aid Kami, I did have the Vegeta protecting his loved ones, because Urgent Aid Kami doesn't have barrier and mainly deals with like Bean, but I'd rather deal with things like Dimension Magic, for them to not be able to tap out and not be able to untap energy, but without losing it and a life. So and also Vegeta having barrier was really nice. And I also had 3 copies of Dark Power Black Mesa because it's a really nice one in this format, where yeah, there's quite a few decks that are playing things by skills that aren't keyword skills. So having this out as well can make you think twice about trying to do any of that. And I still have the 2 Cocoonza. I didn't have the King Vegeta Unison in, but I also did have 1 copy of Prince of Destruction Vegeta Pride for War, because I feel like this is a really nice tech card for against Unisons, because as I said, there's not much Unison hate. So be able to play this one for 4 energy, remove 3 markers from your opponent's Unison, so you can potentially kill it, especially dealing with Unisons that are hard to remove markers from, like Boo Unison and Baby Unison in red. Being able to drop that, and also having a 30k triple striker that has the flex, so they can't stop it from coming down, potentially finish off the Unison and then threaten with a 30k triple striker, is very powerful when you get the 4. Then I had 1 copy of Cell the Armoured Bio Android, just as a way if your opponent's building a whiteboard, just be able to drop this in green because it's essentially a green card, even though it's blue, to put that pressure on. I thought would be a pretty good idea. And then the same extra cards were in there. I just had 1 on Homicidal Clones, but I only had 2 of Blue Impulse and 2 of Bigger More to help deal with if my opponent Blue Impulse for if my opponent plays stuff on my turn, be able to wipe their board, and Bigger More to deal with decks that drop out really big guys like often and easily. And that is it for the deck. So let me know if you like it or if there's any changes you would make. Remember, the side deck did change since then, but yeah, let me know what you think. Also, like the video if you do enjoy it, enjoy the list and the description of it. And also with the turn play progression, it's essentially just, it's quite fluid. Like you just play Unisons off your leader while awakening and trying to make as much use to be aggressive as possible while also managing your energy correctly. Like you don't spend much energy. You can free play some of these Unisons off, and you mainly just with what you've got trying to be as aggressive as possible while reducing their hand while you aggress. So once again, thank you for watching. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.